get trick-or-treaters in this neighborhood?
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Oh, man. The first year...
You live in some very intense hills. But there are a lot of families in this neighborhood.
Yeah, the first year I moved here from New York, I thought, oh, great, I'm going to be in a neighborhood. I'll get trick-or-treaters as opposed to living on a fifth floor walk up behind, a buzzer.
Right.
Where you don't get trick-or-treaters.
Yeah.
And
well, if the building doesn't have kids, yeah.
Yeah, especially then. And so I bought 5 pounds of candy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of candy. And I was sitting here with friend of the pod and editor of Anatomy of series, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting on my sun porch. And we're just waiting on trick-or-treaters. I'm waiting on trick-or-treaters. I'm waiting on... And it occurs to me I live at the top of a hill.
Yeah.
So...
Not a gentle one either.
Yeah. Not a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And also trick-or-treating tends to be done by 8 p.m. Kids are...
Sure. Yeah.
Parents get their kids home.
Yeah.
It's not a late night activity, though it felt that way.
Sun's down by 6:30.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's 7:30, 7:45. No kids. Finally, these two middle schoolers roll up.
The worst.
Yeah, no. And CJ and I have been sitting there eating candy, basically, in these huge bags. Yeah. And we just hand them both basically 90% full candy bags. And they just go, holy shit. And we went to the bar.
Excellent.
So it was excellent trick-or-treater.
Great Halloween.
Yeah. It was a great Halloween for some kids.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know the scariest thing that happened this week?
It's a long list, but what's on your mind?
Laura Harvey. Hello and welcome to Expected Own Goals, Laura Harvey GPT edition. I am your host, Eric Morgan.
I'm Evan Davis. There was late breaking news before we started recording this. There's a reason we wait sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's some national team friendlies.
Yeah, other times it's a prominent NWSL head coach admitting she gets a little bit of a boost from large language models to develop her tactical strategies, but we're not there just yet. We do have 3 U.S. women's national team friendlies to discuss.
Let's start here. Let's get this out of the way.
Okay, I mean, as of 2 hours ago, relative to the time we're recording this, Lori Lindsay and Christina Unkel, they have a podcast called Soccer-ish. They had Laura Harvey on this week to talk for almost an hour about a lot of different things. And there was one section where she was talking about moving to a back 5 defensive structure this year with Seattle. And when Lindsay asked her why she decided to do that, she admitted that she had asked ChatGPT what formation every team in the league should play. And for the Reign, it told her that they should play a back 5. And then she did that. And according to her, it worked. Now, the clip circulating on TikTok, which it's our fault that it's circulating, though hat tip to one of our listeners on Discord, as well as Catalina Bush, for bringing it to our attention. But the full clip is a little bit more nuanced than the TikTok version.
Yeah, I don't think that it's, having watched the full clip, I don't think it's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
What she basically says is that she had never considered playing a back 5 in her career before, had never done it, had only ever really watched it in men's games. Mm-hmm. And then she asked ChatGPT that question. It said, you should play a back 5. And then she told her coaching staff, this is what ChatGPT told me. Should we consider this? And then apparently they did a lot of deep investigative tactical research to see how a back 5 might work for their squad and for their style of play. So if you just took the ChatGPT part out of it and she explained all of that to you, you'd think, well, that's just sort of what coaches would need to do in the offseason. Sure. 2 problems. One, Harvey has never considered playing a back 5 before, really? I mean, I guess,
honestly, look, lots of parts of the world you grow up with that just not as a tactical system that you implement or use a ton. I'm actually not surprised, her being from a British and American footballing background, that a back 5 is not a thing she's ever deployed.
Yeah, but the other thing is you're getting your ideas from a large language model that doesn't work.
Okay, full confession here. Thanks to OG listener Kim and long-term fan, both Kim and I have contributed to ChatGPT's knowledge about the sport of soccer and the way it is played. So in a sense, Laura Harvey has asked me, little old me, what I think about this as a way to play soccer. And I've got to tell you, those models are so rife with errors.
Yeah.
This is a broken clock is right twice a day situation.
Completely. And especially the other part I really want to emphasize is her thinking that this worked. Because yes, you are competing for a top 4 spot in the table, but what makes you think that has anything to do with you and your players and not luck? Because you are mid-table at best in terms of your defensive quality. You're an absolute disaster in attack. And by all accounts, there's no way that you could argue that this is actually something that has worked for you.
I feel like Jose Mourinho must in the offseason just be consulting with OpenAI, because that's the only way you get to this kind of conclusion.
Yeah.
All right. For a theoretical manager who may or may not be named Laura Harvey, is using ChatGPT for your tactics a fireable offense?
Maybe. I certainly would put you in the hot seat.
Yeah. I think that's right.
I'm not loving your process here. You know,
as somebody who's consulted for ChatGPT, you're just listening to me. It's a huge mistake.
Yeah, and cut back to his camera. Look at this man's face. Is this a face you're going to trust?
I'm wearing a Portland Trailblazers hat.
Yeah.
And I know that Rob Gale isn't taking advice from me.
Well, that's it. That's clearly it. Harves, cut back to me. Harves, you going to take advice from a Portland fan? Is that what you're doing?
To be fair, I actually agree with the use of a back 5 for the talent deficit. And I've been arguing that for a long time. I don't think it's a problem.
But a broken clock can be right twice a day. And I think that, Churchill really managed to get that Hitler fella correct. A lot of other stuff, not so much.
Yeah. Anyway. She's been using ChatGPT Dicky.
How's this for a segue? I believe ChatGPT Dicky might be the law of the land at U.S. women's national team camp.
I mean, wow. Okay, so we're going to talk about the friendlies before we get into some of the other stuff here.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the U.S. women's national team's loss to Portugal, victory over Portugal, and then crushing of the tiny island nation of New Zealand. Evan, let's start with the loss. Is there anything to glean from this result?
Not really. I mean, the game comes down to 2 moments of kind of poor set piece defending.
Yeah, I agree.
And nobody wants to use it as an excuse. And, Sam Coffey after the game was like, what did she say? Something to the effect of, we didn't represent the crest well. It's like, all right, chill the fuck out, man. I know you're a professional athlete and you're the captain of this team and you have to say shit like that.
By the way, I respect having to say shit like that.
Sure.
I also think
it's just very funny because this game clearly was the byproduct of not having played in 4 months.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I also
and that's what it looked like. Everybody was sort of disjointed and disconnected and not finding each other with any sort of fluidity, even though they did dominate the game on basically every level, but for the fact that those 2 set-piece goals were pretty high XG chances that they gave up. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, this was a pretty standard U.S. women's national team performance against an inferior opponent, but it looked a little janky because, as we talked about before the game, before the friendly window, they haven't played together in 4 months, and that's never happened in 25 years outside of a normal winter break.
I think it is worth mentioning here that friendlies just don't matter anyway. So it's not about whether you win or lose them. All of these friendlies didn't matter equally.
Yes.
And the results are the thing.
As as is often said in sports, don't get too high, don't get too low. And
by the way, that's really good life advice.
It's really good life advice, but don't think the sky is falling because of the 2-1 loss last week, and don't think this team is an absolute bulldozer because they ran over New Zealand 6-0.
I think it's fair to say in match 1 against Portugal, the big problem was their inability to generate after the early goal, much in attack, and a lot of the sort of how one progresses the ball from the midfield into the attack and what you do once you have it there. And we'll get to the Lindsay Heaps of it all. it was just not fluid. And by the time the Portugal game rolled around,
the second Portugal game.
Yeah, the second Portugal game, Olivia Moultrie basically finishes the same chance twice and is a lot more active. And you just sort of have like better interplay from her and from Jade and Sean, sort of from a lot of the attackers. But also, those are like modest XG chances that both go in and change. Like the game state of that game is completely changed early on.
Yeah, and it's almost as if they just had 48 hours together before game 1 and then suddenly had 5 or 6 days together before game 2. Go figure that maybe the performance was a little bit better. Also, maybe modest XG chances, but like they still ended up across both games like with 8 quality chances. Portugal ended up with 4. And you might say like, well, you should give up no quality chances to a team like Portugal. It's like Portugal's 23rd in the world by FIFA rankings. U.S. is clearly the better team, but also Portugal in 2025 isn't Portugal in like 2018 or 2019. This is like a halfway decent bad team, if that makes any sense. Like they're not going to.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they're not going to roll over, and so you end up conceding 4 quality chances to an opponent where, like, that doesn't seem like super crazy or unreasonable, especially given all of the contextual factors. And need we remind anybody that it's very likely that there are going to be 5 starters day 1 of the 2027 World Cup who are not here.
Yeah.
At minimum 3, but also very likely 5. Your entire center back core and your entire front line just isn't playing here. So was the objective to roll out your best 11 against a strong opponent in a friendly where maybe the result might actually teach you something 20 months out from the start of a major tournament? Or was this just the continuing process of 2025, which is blood young players, get them more minutes, rotate them in and out, find different combinations, get relationships on the field established, get the tactical plan and the system in their brains and in their bodies in training so that they are ready to answer the call if needed? Feels like it's probably that and not, oh God, do we need to hit the panic button? And then the other thing is, like, to flip it on the other side, the 6-0 to New Zealand, that's all well and nice, but it does not tell you that, like, we are so back. The reactions are so schizoid. Either it's, we are so back, look at how amazing we are, everything that we are doing is because we are good and not because of the opposition we're facing and in the context we're facing them in. And then the other side of, like, Jeff Kassouf saying, like, yeah, they probably could have been a little bit more decisive in the final third. It's like, what more do you expect?
I mean,
again, don't get too high, don't get too low, guys.
I love Jeff Kassouf. I think I think he's great. That take is a steaming pile. like God bless you. God bless you. You got to write something, and you've got to say something about these games. And the something I'm going to say about these games in particular is they are nothing more than greater samples for Emma Hayes to draw from to learn about components that do and don't work. The chance creation got better over 3 games. The first 2 against Portugal, you saw a marked improvement in game 2. And then against the second opponent, New Zealand, the chance creation was significantly better.
Yeah, and look at the players who got the majority of minutes. First of all, nobody got more than 180 minutes across all 25 players who play. But, like, you got Jordan Bugg 180 minutes now. You got Lily Johannes 173 more minutes. You got Lily Reel 170 minutes. Avery Patterson played 159 minutes. Maybe in game 1, playing her inverted at left back wasn't, like, a smart idea. But also it's a friendly against Portugal 20 months out.
Also, so you got to know.
Yeah, give it a shot. And then, in the second game, she's back on the right side. So everybody got rotated in. Emily Sams got minutes again at right back, which seems like if she's going to stick in this pool, it's probably going to have to be there.
Yeah, that might be the path forward.
Yeah, so this is all useful, just getting players on the field working together and figuring out who might be useful as sort of like the back end of your bench in 20 months' time.
I'm going to take us on and ask the question. Who do you think actually improved their stock out of these games?
I mean, Johannes, I think. I think that, it shows just how much more fluid she can be because she's just such a naturally incisive passer. She needs to still kind of get some defensive things locked into place, but I think at her age and with the runway that we have, like, I'm certainly intrigued. I mean, we've always been intrigued about her potentially being on the plane, but it does feel like it's more realistic now, which is great. Because again, you're not getting that from Lindsay Heaps.
Lily Johannes is, I think, the primary beneficiary here, and it's also, I think, just a matter of the depth in midfield. Like the other two that I would really single out for sort of improved odds were three are kind of all goal contributors. Michelle Cooper and Emma Sears showed what their version of wing play can look like, and it was super effective. There was a game like in 2012, 2013 where Dirk Kuyt scored a hat trick from like 3 yards out against Manchester United. It's like all 3 goals combined were roughly 3 yards away when totaled up. I mean, these were tap-ins, and Emma Sears scored the closest to a Dirk Kuyt hat trick I have seen in a long time. It was tap-in, followed by tap-in off of yourself to tap-in, followed by absolute tap-in. So, like, she left that game with, 2.6 xG on those 3 chances, and maybe we don't inflate that.
Yeah, and it's telling that the forwards that got the most playing time, Alyssa Thompson, Michelle Cooper, Emma Sears, that feels to me like Hayes is really paying attention to them.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and why wouldn't she? I mean, those are great options to come off the bench for Swanson and Rodman, and potentially, if they really can continue leveling up over the next year and a half, either challenge for a place or be a comfortable replacement if either of them isn't available.
Yeah, I think Cooper more than anyone else, just because of her raw creation ability. The interplay with Johannes, the sort of like back heel chop to give and go that creates the Sears opener is incredible.
It's incredible, but again, it has to come with the asterisk that like
against New Zealand.
New Zealand is going to give you that kind of time and space to do things like that, and they're going to get pulled and stretched out of position and not be able to recover in ways that like Brazil and France and England and Spain are not going to give you. So let's, again, don't get too high, don't get too low. I agree that Johannes, Cooper, Sears really increased their stock and are probably at the front of the line for attacking bench depth in Brazil, but the insane levels of skill that they were putting on display probably isn't the baseline that we can expect once the rubber really meets the road.
Yeah, absolutely. You can only play the opponent in front of you, and Cooper and Sears could not have done more to improve their stock in that game.
Yeah. And again, with the minutes that Hayes was giving them, I think she really wanted to see what they could do, because I think she's starting to think that maybe this is the path forward. I do want to put this,
and also Moultrie, who got who was just sort of the center of attention in that second Portugal game.
Yeah, like, the only minutes she got
were in that
all window. But yes, I mean, she was pulling strings and gravitating everything toward her and doing what she has been doing for Portland all year. So great to see.
On Claudia Dickey, do you think Dickey improved her stock here? Did any goalkeeper, did any defender improve their odds?
It's hard to say. It's interesting to see Kennedy Wesley, A, called in, and then B, given a start for her first cap. Again, Hayes wants to see everybody and wants to test them in the most competitive environments she can offer them at that time. So that's interesting. Mickione didn't look great in the first Portugal game. Not that everything on those 2 set pieces was her fault, but she was in the mix with it. And it sort of just is a repeat of issues.
The same goes for Sonnet in the just loses a header.
Yeah, I mean, that first goal to me has more to do with Fallon Tullis-Joyce than it does with Sonnet, because Sonnet is marking it well and goes to challenge for the header, but Fallon Tullis-Joyce is just in the wrong spot and clearly doesn't have her shit sorted, which again, 4 months away. Set piece practice often is the thing that doesn't come together when you have that much time away from your teammates. So that I probably don't lay at Sonnet's feet so much than I do Tullis-Joyce's, but also whatever. Bug again, 2 starts. Feels like maybe she is improving her stock. I mean, Patterson got 2 starts and is just continuing the pattern, son, of of I'm punning like you today for some reason.
I don't know why.
Feels like she is slowly rising up the ranks, but it still kind of doesn't solve left back, because if you don't think she can invert on the left side, then you're not going to play Fox over there. So you can't. Patterson's not going to overtake Fox. At least it doesn't seem that way right now. So is Lily Real the way to go? Lily Real got 2 starts.
Yeah, she looked good.
But when you add up all of her playing time across this year, like Jenna Neiswanger still has more minutes at left back than a lot of the other players who have come through. And it isn't recent, but if you just look at like the sum total of like, if you go from the friendly against England at the end of last year through now, which is about 15 games, I think, she still has more minutes than anybody else besides Emily Fox at fullback. They have, again, not recent minutes, but what it should illustrate is that no one is stepping up and like grabbing the bull by the horns here. And is that just a matter of players not rising to the challenge, or that we just truly are bereft of left back depth in this country? I guess that's for Emma Hayes to determine, but it's weird.
Yeah. All right.
And by the way, and to answer the question about goalkeeping, I think Dickey probably has raised her stock, if only because she got 2 starts and McGlynn got none. So,
yeah, I don't know exactly what the reasoning behind that was. Maybe it's just you want to see Claudia Dickey. Maybe Mandy McGlynn was carrying some sort of knock. Maybe she's just definitely third totem.
Or it could
it could be any of those.
Or it could just be like who won in camp. Like, who was the best in camp?
Absolutely.
You know, that's often how these things get decided. So I don't think this is going to be a knock against McGlynn long term, but it might be the canary in the coal mine that suggests that it's a fight between Dickey and Tullis Joyce for the number 1. But we'll see. Again, maybe the picture is filling in a little bit at goalkeeper, but as we've been saying for a year, it's nowhere close to being fully sketched out. What I do want to note is the context in which these games were played relative to other periods in the U.S.'s kind of Olympics World Cup interregnum, where they're just playing a lot of friendlies. Because I sometimes sense that people think that the U.S. is a little bit further behind in their preparations this cycle than maybe they have in past cycles. So I just want to cite the amount of playing time that they've had relative to 2019, because I think 2019 is a good comp. Everybody believes that team was so dominant and they were on a path of inevitability, et cetera, and so forth. A lot of hay has been made that there have been 3 losses this year for the U.S. in 2025. In 2017, which would be the equivalent cycle year, guess what the team did then? They lost 3 times, and they lost against big teams. They lost against Australia, who was quite good then. They lost against France, and I believe the other team was England or Germany, can't remember. Regardless, they dropped a bunch of big games too. And then if you look at the sum total of the performances, if you start from the first window after the Olympics to this late October window, 20 months before the start of the World Cup, the 2019 team generated 1.9 points per game. The 2027 team at present has generated, drumroll please, 1.9 points per game.
Yeah.
The only difference, the only meaningful difference, is that scoring is down. That the New Zealand game was the first game under Emma Hayes where the team has scored more than 4 goals, at least in this post-Olympics period. The U.S. in 2019 was doing that all the damn time. And you might say, well, that just means the attack is worse. That's not what it means.
No, it has a lot of factors, and also the competition is
just better. Yeah, even the bad teams in 2027 cycle are better than the bad teams in the 2019 cycle.
Yeah, no question about that.
And the U.S. is starting to just get itself in line with the rest of the world in terms of how much playing time it has to prepare for these tournaments. Like if you look at overall everything between the Olympics and the World Cup, all the games that like top national sides play, the U.S. leading up to 2015 in that like almost 3-year period, they played 60 games Do you know how many games Japan played, their World Cup final opponent?
I'm going to guess like 36.
30. Yeah. And every top side in that period played somewhere between 30 and 45 games.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S., and again, I think this is just health of the game.
Exactly.
The U.S. women's national team are now comprised of a bunch of players who earn decent salaries playing for club sides, and the club game is more important than sort of consistently generating revenue for these players to survive on.
Exactly.
And like, so of course we're going to see fewer friendlies.
And the 2027 cycle is the first cycle where there is no overlap with national teamers being national team employees instead of club employees.
Yes, exactly.
So there's just no opportunity. Also in that period, FIFA standardized the women's international calendar. So now there are fewer chances for the U.S. to even play, even if they wanted to play more games.
You're just playing when you're allotted to play.
Yeah,
now.
like the average spread between teams in terms of the number of games they play between the Olympics and the World Cup has steadily and perfectly declined from cycle to cycle from that 2015 to 2027 window. We project that the U.S. is probably going to end up playing fewer than 40 games in the lead up to the 2027 World Cup after the Olympics. The 2023 team...
And they're still playing 3-game windows.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's not like they're not playing.
Yeah, the 2023 team played 32 games, only 7 fewer, and they lost an entire year because of COVID. So even the 2023 team was getting more minutes together than this 2027 team is going to. And by the way, once again, for the umpteenth time, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's move on and talk about bad things. Because a lot of them happened this week. Unless there's anything else you want to...
You want to hit decision day first, or do we want to...
No, we'll end on decision day. I want to hit bad things. So... speaking of bad things, there were a lot of bad things that happened this week in the NWSL verse and media. First off, Angel City, you're messy. You're out of it. You are not a playoff team anymore. You're messy.
That's the kindest way to say it.
Walk us through.
Well, the biggest news is that a player on their payroll, Elizabeth Eddy, wrote an op-ed in the New York Post saying that the NWSL needs to get its gender policy in place. And as Meg Linehan put it in her column in The Athletic about this, I agree with Elizabeth Eddy. A gender policy does need to be put in place, just not the one that she thinks.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Eddy is just coasting on the, boilerplate, Christopher Rufo approved idea that this league needs to put it in writing that only quote unquote biological women are allowed to play in the league. And we're in a weird spot with that because the league used to have a gender policy on the books until 2021, and then suddenly it just was deleted from league rules and without anyone ever explaining why, and it's never been replaced with anything. And that original gender policy was a fairly inclusive one because until recently, there was one player who identified as trans non-binary, Quinn, midfielder for the Seattle Reign, who, looking at the U.S. landscape in 2024, decided to say,
"I'm the fuck out of here.
I don't need this shit in my life," and went home to Canada and plays in the NSL. So now there are no trans or non-binary identifying people playing in the NWSL. So as it always is and always has been with the trans athletes issue, quote unquote, this is a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to drop the name Riley Gaines on our women's soccer podcast. I hate that I know who Riley Gaines is. And all I want to say is absolutely, if just get the fuck out. Just get these right-wing talking points. And of course the New York Post published this shit. don't take anything seriously from that Murdoch shithole paper.
Yeah.
Don't take anything seriously from a player who's willing to write something in that New York Post shithole. And frankly, the most disgusting thing was that Angel City was really slow to respond, as if they didn't know this was coming.
That's actually something I want to really drill down on, because even though we just explained it, like, if the moral repugnance of Elizabeth Eddy's words and behavior isn't self-evident to you, there are other resources that you can find that can walk you through all of that. But the damning thing, and it's not even that Angel City wrote like a lawyer-approved boilerplate response, because they clearly were always going to do that, and they're doing that because Elizabeth Eddy needs to get her contract sorted out at the end of the year, and they probably want to give themselves some wiggle room to cut her without blowback that she's being victimized for her
cause. And so that she doesn't literally become Riley Gaines.
Right, exactly. And I've got two main things to say about that. One, it's really kind of disgusting the way that people can say the right words in as vague a set of terms as possible, and then do not actually do the thing that is going to like protect their neighbors and their brothers and sisters around this. So why are we focusing all on this when you're not realizing that you have been brain poisoned by a right-wing propaganda machine that very specifically and explicitly decided to pick up this baton 7 or 8 years ago, because they thought they could persuade people's opinions about it and then turn anyone who pushed back even slightly as groomers and pedophiles.
Yeah.
And you are a sucker. You're either evil or a sucker. Which one are you, Elizabeth Eddy? Are you evil or a sucker?
I think Elizabeth Eddy is a creature of this moment, and it is unfortunate that she chose to use her platform to spew something that's not only, that has also racial undertones here too. Like, it's just really gross.
And then Angel City
boilerplates the shit out of it
because they don't want to get sued for firing her for cause, and says absolutely fuck all about what they think about the trans community, but loves to pat themselves on the back about how much they stick up for inclusivity and inclusion in their community. So they love waving the pink and blue flag on Trans Visibility Day, but when it actually comes to protecting their community, all of a sudden it's, we respect everyone's opinions. Fuck all the way off. You're afraid of getting sued? Fucking get sued. Fuck, just do it. Fucking get sued. It would be a PR master coup for you. Like, you don't allow the right wing to set the fucking terms of debate. That's how we got into this mess. Fucking get sued. See what happens. Tell these assholes, tell Elizabeth Eddy and her right-wing Christian shithead community to fuck around and find out.
Yeah, I mean, professional sports teams. I was having this conversation with somebody because it came up about the Dodgers and ice, but I think it is a very real question that professional sports teams face about what is their obligation to their communities. And I think the answer is almost universally they come up short of living up to the standard, like living up to the community needs of their fans. And in this instance, I felt like Angel City's response was like woefully, for all your Immigrant City FC shirts, which I love and respect, like, you just fell way short, and you actually probably do need to own that. Now, I understand that they are probably going to, in some way, shape, or form, not have Elizabeth Eddy on the team next year, and that they don't want to open themselves up to that. But also, you owe your fan base better than the boilerplate you served.
And have some fucking courage. Open yourself up to that. I know that, you know, you have a million owners, the top two of which, at least one of them.
Are we going to talk Alexis Ohanian here?
Well, we can get there. But, like, I mean, just talk about Willow Bay's husband and all of his, like, tiptoeing and dancing around how much he needs to appease the
Bob
fascist. How much he needs to appease the fascist in chief. I'm sure all of that trickles down to like where we got, because it took them 2 days to release a fucking statement that said absolutely fuck all. But
it's impressive how little it said.
Yeah, but pick a fucking lane, guys. Like, you are either on board with protecting the most vulnerable and most, by the way, passionate members of your fan base, or you're not. You don't get to have it both ways. This was a work of profound moral hypocrisy and moral cowardice.
I solidly agree.
And the most important thing also to acknowledge is what Silves at Shea Butter FC said after the statement came out, which is, this statement sucked, but don't think for a second that any team in this league would have done any better.
Yeah, I think I would. It's time and time again, professional sports teams, which are corporations, will take the path of least resistance and the most cowardly way out. And I think that it is a consistent failing, a true. It's a shame. It's a shame that like we have to engage in this debate. It's a shame that anyone platformed this, but also knowing that that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
You can't be so woefully unprepared, and you can't offer such a tepid, shitty response. I would not be proud of my club if that was my response and I was a player for that team. And I am not proud of that club as somebody who gives them money. Let's talk Alexis Ohanian's very brief, because my God, could they not have enough news this week? His very brief talking about sort of the clusterfuck of Angel City's ownership structure and, you know, the foolish act of participating in it.
Yeah, he went on a business and finance podcast and said not really too much new that he hadn't said like a year ago when the initial like ownership drama emerged that resulted in the sale of the team to Willow Bay and Bob Iger. But yeah, he did just sort of underline the, like, I come from a startup, and so I thought, you know, having, you know, the majority of shares but no board control would be the smart way to operate. But boy, was I wrong. You know, friend of the pod, OG fan of the pod, Jill, was like, I'm a business consultant, and that's never a good way to run a business. Like, you got, again, broken clock right twice a day. Like, you got lucky with Reddit. You know, that wasn't wasn't a byproduct of like smart business organizational strategy. Like, you just sort of lucked into that one.
I will say, of people that I've known in the internet startup community, he is by no means the dumbest out there.
No,
who is happy to go on a podcast and say shit about business. So there's that.
But I did love the salty tag where he's like, you know, I have a minority of shares, and these three ladies, namely Julie Ehrman, Karen Ortman, and Natalie Portman, reaped the benefits of all of our success and put up no money. But I'm not upset. It's like, sure you're not, dude.
What I love is that he then went and bought a minority stake in a club that just wanted his money. You know, like this.
But it's a minority stake,
yeah,
so, you know,
he's
not on the hook, you know, because he complained that like the league saw him as the controlling owner when in fact it was Ehrman who was kind of running the show.
Yeah.
Erman, we know, it's not the best with money.
She's just a drunk school bus driver.
Indeed.
With money.
So, yeah, that's Angel City's Michigas. That's the U.S.'s not really Michigas. So let's talk about Decision Day. Very briefly. Teams that have some things on the line, teams that don't.
Mm-hmm.
San Diego and Angel City play the early game, so they're not part of the Decision Day block.
First off, Decision Day games should all occur at the exact same time. So, I mean, granted, it is fine, and I get why they want to stack results here, and I get why they want to stack TV times, but like San Diego and Kansas City, in the grand scheme of things, won't alter how anyone approaches this. You know, how anyone approaches this final block of games.
Yeah, and so that is lucky for them, but the only reason that this is happening is because ESPN is a media rights holder, and they want a weekend afternoon slot with a good game.
Correct.
So the only game that truly doesn't matter at all is Chicago Angel City, and no broadcaster wants to go anywhere near that shit.
Say that one more time.
All right. The only game that truly doesn't matter is Chicago Angel City, and no broadcaster wants to go anywhere near that shit.
I think if things that I would rather do than watch Chicago Angel City. It's a very long list of very mediocre things.
I guess I'm wrong. I'm taking own goal. Utah, Washington doesn't matter either because Washington's locked for second and Utah's eliminated.
But at least one of the teams is good.
Right. Yeah. But as for the other 5 games, I mean, there are so many ways that this can go. I mean, from Orlando in 3rd to North Carolina in 9th, there is a 7-point spread.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't even really tackle all the potential permutations for how this table is going to shake out.
No, there's just like a range of finishes that every team sort of has that they can fall into.
Yeah, and thankfully, because it's so tight, as you say, should San Diego win or lose in the early game, it's not really going to collapse into a disgrace of Gijon situation where everybody knows that all they got to do is kick it around the back and get a draw.
We've mentioned it on here before, but if you're not familiar with the disgrace of Gijon, great Wikipedia page. Highly recommend. Some Germans and some Austrians doing some things to screw up some Algerians.
In Spain in 1982. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we feel like it's probably going to be Louisville who's going to get into the playoffs over North Carolina. We think that Orlando and one of Portland or Seattle are going to make the top 4, but there's no guarantees of any of that. So much can change so incredibly quickly. And I think it's going to be exciting-ish. On like a scale of 1 to 10, I put this at maybe a gentleman's 6, mostly because like it's jockeying. Most of this is about jockeying for position. Like the Shield isn't in.
I think this is more like a 4, just given like the caliber of. Look, a lot of interesting things can happen, but in terms of raw excitement, this isn't like 2023 when there were just a whole host of teams that could have made the playoffs.
Right, and the Shield hadn't been decided. Here we got the top 2 locked in, so we know who's going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. One trophy has already been decided as well. And Louisville and North Carolina aren't playing each other on the final day, which would have been a lot of fun because they are the 2 teams duking it out for likely the 8th seed. Mm-hmm. So, otherwise it's like, who's going to finish in 4th? Who's going to finish in 6th? Like, there is some heat to that, but not really all that much. Most of it's just going to be about who can avoid Kansas City and Washington for as long as possible in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's right. You just want to end up on the side of the bracket that doesn't involve Kansas City.
Yeah, and home teal advantage is a thing, but it's not
home teal advantage.
Home teal advantage is definitely a thing, but like home team advantage more broadly in the NWSL is like it's a thing, but it's not probably the most determining thing of whether you win or lose at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. It's the margins are not great. So let's ask the question. You want to just run me through the games, and I'll give you my quick take of. Where we go.
All right.
And we'll go back and forth.
Start with Kansas City, San Diego.
I think Kansas City probably wins that one or maybe draws. Who knows what their rotation looks like. I think that they should probably use this game as like a fine tuning. I think you probably want to run Chewinga 60 minutes.
Well, we also don't know what the health status for Chewinga or Dabinia are.
Yeah, that's right. So again, if available.
Yeah.
You don't want to run them forever.
Yeah, it's also the home finale. You're the Shield winners. You want to give your home fans a show, but also does it really matter because they're going to see you in the same building in a week's time when the game really does matter. So yeah, maybe you just try and like take the foot off the pedal and get your starters fresh.
Yeah, I think the disadvantage here for San Diego is that they really probably would like a result out of this game, and so they will have to open themselves up a little bit, and no team is more painful to open yourself up against than Kansas City.
Right. Yeah. So if they want to have a good shot at playing the quarterfinal at Snapdragon, that will be the risk that Jonas Shadowell and his players will have to take.
Yeah, I think Kansas City wins this one.
I think Kansas City probably wins it too. Portland, Houston.
Houston's it's dead rubber. It's in Portland. They're just ready for this season to be over.
I think so.
I think Portland takes this one. Portland, who have not been super impressive down this stretch run. I feel like a draw is the baseline, and more likely than not, I think Portland wins this.
Yeah, there's always that outside chance of like the team who is playing for dead rubber plays for pride, and they want to make their opponent's day miserable, or they want to try and show like what they've been putting in place that they can build on for next year. So if I'm sure that's what Fabrice Gautrat is like talking about in the locker rooms and what the
Can they be a
captains-
thorn in the side? Can they dash the hopes of Portland? Yeah, no, these are things.
Correct. I'm glad that that dynamic is on the right side of the table again.
I just owed one.
You did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is that, but I mean, Portland's the better team, so I think Portland wins.
Yeah, I also think the value add for Portland of like winning this game is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Orlando, Seattle. Can Orlando beat the ChatGPT backline at home when they're fighting for a home playoff berth?
Yes.
Yeah, this feels like a very, very nervy 1-0 that could fall into 0-0 territory very easily.
Yeah, I think 0-0, 1-0 is probably right.
Yeah.
I do think Seattle actually has the incentive in this game to go out and attack. There's real value there for them. But the same is true for Orlando. I suspect Seattle will play in their normal reserved fashion, inviting on pressure and grabbing a bullshit goal
Yeah, I was gonna say,
if they can.
I was going to say Seattle has had incentive to go out and attack lots of times this season.
It's not what ChatGPT says is a good idea. We should actually ask ChatGPT what they think the result of this game will end up being.
Oh, talk about your viral content.
Yeah, I think Orlando wins this game.
Yeah, 1-0 at worst, 0-0. But
Yeah, that feels right. But
North-
like, look, if Seattle grabs a bullshit penalty and ekes it out 1-0, also, I've been wrong all year about how they are going to do it, so why should I start being right now?
Now on to the games that well and truly matter for the postseason. North Carolina Gotham, Louisville Bay. Both teams who need a win to guarantee moving through. Well, North Carolina needs a win. Louisville can draw or lose and still potentially go through. But both teams playing at home, so they'll have the wind at their backs. North Carolina has announced a sellout. I believe it is only the third sellout in Courage history at WakeMed. So I'm sure the crowd will be bumping, but they're playing Gotham, so they will be at a talent disadvantage despite that. What do you think?
Gotham has a lot of incentive to perform well on the last day of the season. They lose here, they also could potentially finish in 8th. So I think Gotham takes this game probably like 2-1, or it's like a 2-2 draw.
ASA's model, without knowing the lineup specifics, gives North Carolina a 42% chance to win. Gotham, 30% chance to win.
3-0?
3-0.
All right. And so that,
I mean, that's
so a
essentially...
28% chance for a draw.
It's not far away from a coin flip, really.
Yeah, that's very coin flippy.
Yeah. So, yeah, with Gotham's talent advantage, maybe that's what gets them through. We got to know the health status of much of their forward line in order to feel as more comfortable about that. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a very close game. And then Louisville Bay, ASA gives Louisville a 57% chance to win. And
Speaking of teams that have been on vacation since September, yes.
yeah, and Bay has a 19% chance.
I just really hope for Louisville's sake, and I'm sure that Louisville supporters had to be stressed about Emma Sears going a full 90, days before the most important game in franchise history as the most important attacking node in that team.
Yeah.
That said, I still think it'll be fine.
Lucky for them, they can still draw and potentially lose and still go through depending on what happens with North Carolina.
Yeah, obviously North Carolina needs to win.
Yeah.
If North Carolina wins, Louisville needs to win.
Oh, it's because of goal difference. Yeah.
Correct. This is why North Carolina laid it on strong.
And this
in their
is
last
also
game.
why you play these games at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Those two games are the games to side-by-side screen. All right, you want to take us out?
Thank you so much for listening/watching the show. I know a lot of people enjoy putting us in their headphones when they're doing dishes or going for a walk, but if you want to give the video version a try, please do so. We're putting a lot of cool work into it, adding a lot of cool viz and imagery that I think is a real value add to the product.
That said, those of you who have responded to us, and we're trying to make the audio just as valuable for you. The video will have more things, but we will try to make the audio, enjoyable too.
I don't think the audio is going to change anytime soon.
No,
at the end of the day.
not.
If you want to listen to/watch the show ad-free, join our Patreon for only $6 a month. You get the ad-free versions of both the audio and video editions of the program, as well as a ton of other exclusive bonus content. So click the link in the show notes for that. Follow us on social media at xOwnGoals. That's the letter xOwnGoals, including Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, where you're going to see a lot of exclusive video content there that you won't find on the pod itself. And of course, all of that content is free of charge. If you believe we've made an own goal,
and I'm sure we have,
email us at expectedowngoals@gmail.com. That's the letter expectedowngoals@gmail.com. And of course, if you haven't done so, do all the things you're supposed to do with podcasts. Rate us 5 stars, drop in a kind review, follow us on your podcatcher of choice, and tell everyone you know about us.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.